What you're going to see in this video is a modification of a really cool and well-designed video light done by Griffin Hammond of the Indie Mogul YouTube channel. The way that I modified this light was making it dimmable. Many people didn't feel that you could make it dimmable, but in fact you can, and I'll show you how. And others have talked about why it would not be a good idea to make it dimmable, and I'll show you why I do think it is. What you're looking at right here is the front of the light as designed by Griffin Hammond. And what you're looking at right here is the back of the light, which shows how the sockets are connected and how they're connected to the switch. When I first built this light, I took it to my photography club to show them and give them a demonstration. Here in the picture you can see what the light looks like. It's a very broad and strong light that gives almost 800 watt equivalent light output, but only uses 180 watts to do it. What Griffin Hammond did so well in his video, and I encourage you to watch his video fully, is that he gave you all the materials shown so nicely as he did here, and he also gives you full instructions. Two of the items that you see here are modified for my design, both the bulbs and the switch. I also like that he gave you approximate costs for all the items that you would need. If you watch his video, you'll find that it's excellent. But what I also did to help me is, at certain spots as you see here, I took screenshots of the various items so that you could see, that I could see at each important point in the construction process what I needed to do. I also learned some things from people who had followed Griffin Hammond and made this light themselves, and I learned that some of them had problems using the silicone that Griffin suggested, and also with positioning the bulbs correctly. So I used a construction adhesive instead of silicone, and I cemented these things in and made sure that the socket splitters and bulbs were in the correct position before I wired it up, but it's up to you. Indie Mogul also shows you how you can put an umbrella in or onto the light, and I also do this, but his video went so quickly it did not really show how you get the light in there fully, so I'm just giving some suggestions here on how I made sure that the light was perpendicular or came out straight from the light. The barn doors for controlling the width of the beam coming from the light is excellent. I'm just showing the dimensions that I used, which were not mentioned by Griffin, and also that gaffer's tape, which is entirely non-reflective, is what you should use instead of black duct tape, which is kind of reflective. This slide shows the key differences with my light. You can see that the front has two dimmer switches on it. I used CL dimmer switches. Those are the correct kind. You can't use anything else if you're going to use dimmable compact fluorescents or LEDs. These switches can only go up to 150 watts safely, and for 8 bulbs that would turn out to be 184 watts for the compact fluorescents. Therefore I broke it up into two regions. The two inner sockets are controlled by the left switch, and the two outer sockets are controlled by the right switch. And as you'll see, I think that not only was it necessary, but it adds a nice element of additional control to the light. The dimmable compact fluorescent bulbs are quite a bit more expensive than normal, and they're also larger, so I had to use shorter bulb sizes to make sure that they would not interfere with the bulbs. With the original design, there's some wobbling where the flagpole holder connects with the plastic dishpan, so adding this pine board really helps to reduce that. I also put this black gaffer's tape around the outside to minimize light leakage through the sides of the dishpan, and also this would minimize the reflectivity of the light itself upon photographic subjects that might be kind of shiny. Indie Mogul gave this nice wiring diagram, which also corresponds with the photo with the numbering. You can see exactly how to wire this up. You shouldn't attempt to do any wiring unless you have had some training in electricity and know what the dangers are and know things like what a ground is. However, if you do, then you can use my wiring diagram here in order to be able to do this dimmable light. Feel free to contact me if you have additional questions regarding my wiring. This picture is meant to give you an idea of what the color of the light looks like, how it compares to room lighting of normal incandescent. You can see that it gives a nice pleasing complement to the daylight coming into the room. To get some idea about how uniformly or evenly the light spreads, I took the light and photographed what it looks like through the umbrella. And I hope you can see from this that by looking at the inner zone of lights and then the outer zone of lights and then all the lights all at once, that we still get a pretty nice uniform spread either way. My first portrait subject with the light was my dog Samson, and I think it does show that the light is powerful enough to serve as the key or main light in a portrait. Of course, it needs to have a little bit of reflection or an additional light on the right side of his face in order to fill in the shadows. This shows just what an asset it is to use the umbrella, because the umbrella hides the imperfections in the surfaces and really makes the subject, in this case, glow. Here you can see that having the two different regions, the inner and the outer lights, help to give it a different effect. The outer lights being on seem to spread the lights around more around the edges of the subject, and both of the lights together even do that more so, and also light up the background more. So having these two different regions to control adds even more control to the light. Here you can see how the barn doors help to narrow down the beam of light, and it also helps avoid lens flare in some cases. Because the light is powerful, having a reflector, as you can see with the photo on the right side, can serve as another light source, so you may not need two lights in order to get the effect you're looking for. Some people who looked at Indie Mogul's design said they'd like to see a light that was dimmable like mine, but others said, why, that's not really a good idea, just use 4 switches. So from this I wanted to show that the 4-switch idea works fine, but it gives you a limited ability to control the light output. Here you can see that I have a lot more control over the light output by just taking the 2 different zones and dropping down the power on the inner zone and then dropping down the power on the outer zone. I can do a lot more in the way of controlling the light output than just using 4 switches. With this slide, I'm summarizing what you need for the dimming operation and some of my conclusions about it. Well, there you have it, my dimmable light. Well, some of you may not want to build something, so if you want to buy, this is a high price option and this is a low price option. The Lowell Rifa, the high price option, did mention that you could add a dimmer switch to it. I don't know if your lower price option could also work with that, but it does have 2 switches, so you can turn off half and lower your light output in half that way. I hope you found my video helpful, and again, you can contact me through YouTube if you have any questions about my design, and I would appreciate your input and thoughts about my light design.